as long as we've all been in this project, this has been Dick's baby from the get-go for how many years now?
I began working on it I actually came up with the idea in 2006. But when I said to Rosemary Wilson, Meredith Wilson's widow, who was still living at the time, I'm going to throw out 100% of the script and start over, she said, great, and initially then in the negotiation kept coming back, I could change 30%, and I'd cross out and say no 100%. Then it would come back 40%, no 100%. And that took a year to get it up to 100%. So by the time I started on it was the summer of 2007, is when I began writing it.
What were your thoughts about the original, and what did you think you could do to bring a different kind of perspective to it?
Well, sort of atypically for me, I was approached about this piece many times because the man who conceived the original and wrote the original book, Richard Morris, was a dear friend of mine and wrote the movie Thoroughly Modern Millie and collaborated with me on the very early stages of that book, that script. And so when we were working on Millie before he passed, he'd say, when we're done with Millie, we have to fix Molly. And I had read the script at his behest and not responded to it. I thought it was a great character and a great time in U.S. history, but the actual story felt cumbersome to me and just not compelling. So after he passed, Freddie Gershon, who runs Music Theater International, called me and asked me to revisit it. I was on the phone in my little office, and I had a friend there I was working, and I said, oh, Freddie, I know the script very well, it's just not for me. And I hung up and I said to my friend, I feel like Molly Brown is always hanging over my head. And she reached over my head and took off the picture that I have of Richard Morris over my head, standing underneath the Molly Brown marquee. And she said, you hung it over your own head? So I called Freddie back and I said, give me 6 months to see if I could figure out a way to fall in love with this story. And the first thing I did, of course, was really examine the original. I actually organized a reading of it to hear it and say, is there something I'm not? And so at a certain point, really in desperation, I thought, well, maybe if I understood how they created it, I'd understand better how to fix it. And so that's when I came out here and began to find out who Molly Brown really was. And when I found out who she really was and what her real story was, and when I discovered how Colorado then, and I think now, is so emblematic of the country in general, just in terms of the political spectrum it covers and the kind of, a beautiful synthesis / tension between traditionality and progressiveness. I thought, well, this is the perfect story to tell this way, and this place becomes, it's a big American story, and I got excited by it.